Welcome to NFL Nexus. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine the sheer, deafening roar of an NFL stadium on a Sunday afternoon. We're talking 80,000 fans screaming, the visceral, bone-rattling crack of pads echoing across the turf, the overwhelming sensory overload of professional football. It is absolute chaos. But what if I told you that the most violent, decisive battles in this sport actually happen in complete, dead silence? The real battle for a championship doesn't start with the snap of the ball. It begins entirely in the mind. In this explainer, we are going to deeply analyze the Washington Commanders' 2026 roster. But we aren't just going to look at X's and O's or 40-yard dash times. We are looking at the invisible architecture of human psychology. We're diving into the minds of the men on the field.
So I have to ask you, what defeats an NFL team before they even take the field? Really think about it. It isn't a stronger opponent. It isn't a blown coverage, a missed tackle, or a drop pass. Those things, those are just symptoms. The true disease is the unseen opponent of psychological strain. It's the creeping, agonizing weight of hesitation. You see, in a league where decisions are literally made in fractions of a single second, the slightest shadow of doubt is fatal. If you are thinking, you're already a step behind. And if you're a step behind in the National Football League, you're already beaten.
We define this invisible enemy as psychological pressure. Now, in the context of an NFL front office, this pressure takes the shape of a massive mental burden and organizational paralysis caused by intense contract negotiations and uncertainty. We so often think of the NFL purely as a game of bodies, of muscle and bone, but the massive cognitive load, the sheer mental bandwidth consumed by off-season front office headaches is staggering. General Manager Adam Peters deeply understands this. He knows that a distracted, stressed front office bleeds anxiety down to the coaching staff, and that coaching staff, in turn, bleeds that exact same anxiety directly into the locker room. It's highly contagious. To really put this into perspective, I want you to consider the sheer magnitude of this number right here, 30. Last year, 30 second-round draft picks held out of training camps across the NFL over disputes regarding fully guaranteed money. Just picture that. 30 young men representing the literal future and hope of their respective franchises entirely paralyzed by contract disputes. Imagine the unseen mental toll that takes on those organizations, the missing repetitions on the field, the awkward tension in the building, the complete disruption of carefully laid off-season plans. It acts like a psychological virus that quietly infects a team's entire preparation. The Commanders faced this exact looming threat, and they knew they had to neutralize it.
Look at this exact figure. $4,568,725. Now, this isn't just a random accounting figure or a line item on a spreadsheet. This is the precise amount of guaranteed money, exactly 62.8% of a 4-year, $7.28 million deal that Adam Peters secured for rookie cornerback Trey Amos, and he hit an absolute buzzer beater to do it, getting it done right at the deadline before training camp kicked off. Why is this granular, hyper-specific reality so incredibly important for us to look at? Because it represents certainty. By closing this deal, Peters engineered peace of mind. The player is relaxed and feels valued. The coaches are relaxed. Their development continues smoothly without the dark cloud of a boardroom dispute hanging over the practice field. It's psychological management at its finest.
We see this exact same philosophy in their trade acquisitions. By trading away their 2026 second and fourth-round picks to bring in established veteran left tackle Laramie Tunsil, Adam Peters didn't just acquire an elite physical blocker to protect his quarterback's blindside. He calculatedly engineered organizational peace of mind. He decisively eliminated fear from the equation. When you draft a rookie in the second round in today's NFL, you automatically inherit the anxiety of a potential holdout. You inherit a massive unknown. Tunsil, on the other hand, is a known entity. He is a brick wall of certainty. Peters literally traded away future draft capital to buy mental stillness for his organization today.
Section 1. The anatomy of a roster. Engineering confidence.
So the front office has essentially engineered a psychological foundation of certainty. But how does this mental framework actually apply to the players sweating it out on the gridiron? It starts, as it always does, with the offensive core, centered entirely around quarterback Jayden Daniels. He is the franchise cornerstone. Now, the mental processing speed required to play quarterback in the NFL is almost incomprehensible. Every single pre-snap read, every shifting safety trying to disguise a blitz, every ticking, agonizing second of the play clock, it demands an elite, untouchable mental state. To protect his mind from the fatal trap of overthinking, the Commanders absolutely must surround Daniels with reliable psychological anchors. Players like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Rashad White in the backfield, and tight end Chig Okonkwo stepping up into a bigger role.
They all must operate with absolute, flawless clarity to free Daniel's mind, allowing him to bypass thought and simply react. This fascinating psychological dichotomy perfectly extends to the wide receiver room. On one hand, you have Terry McLaurin. He is absolute certainty. He is the undisputed WR1, the established anchor of this offense. His mere presence on the field actively alleviates the rookie quarterback's overthinking. When Daniels drops back and looks his way, there is zero hesitation. He knows where Terry will be. But then, there is Treylon Burks. Burks is fighting a completely different, deeply brutal psychological battle. He is desperately trying to buck the devastating career-ending label of being a bust. Imagine the suffocating mental tension he carries. Every dropped pass in practice doesn't just feel like a mistake, it feels like a confirmation of his failure to the entire world. The Commanders urgently need Burks to reclaim his career trajectory, to shed that heavy cloak of overthinking, and to execute decisively. They need him to take that deep-seated fear and synthesize it into pure aggression. And where does true, unshakable confidence begin for any offense? It begins in the absolute brutality of the trenches. Just look at the sheer, overwhelming experience fortifying this offensive line. With Nick Allegretti sliding over from guard to confidently take the starting center position, alongside the elite veteran Laramie Tunsil, Washington is buying the ultimate, most expensive luxury for Jaden Daniels, and that is physical and mental stillness in the pocket. The center isn't just a blocker. He is the neurological brain of the offensive line. Having an experienced, continuous presence making the calls right there in the middle sets a calm, authoritative tone for the entire unit. Fortifying the mental trenches. That is exactly what this newly constructed offensive line represents. Think about it from the quarterback's perspective. A chaotic, constantly rotating revolving door at the offensive line makes a quarterback feel intense, rushing pressure before the ball is even snapped. He starts playing with fear. He starts looking at the rush instead of downfield. Established, veteran continuity completely counters that fear. It builds a fortress around the quarterback's mind. It allows the entire offensive ecosystem to operate on pure, unadulterated instinct rather than fatal hesitation. Now, flip in the script to the other side of the ball. Defensive coordinator Darante Jones's 3-4 system puts an immense, crushing amount of pressure on the outside linebackers. Players like Odafe Owe and Kalavon Chasen are finally stepping out of the comfortable shadows and into newly expanded, highly scrutinized full-time roles. They are no longer just rotational players coming in fresh on third down. The spotlight on them is now blinding. And stepping into a full-time role like that requires a massive, fundamental psychological shift. They no longer have the luxury to overthink. They have to process the offense in real time and execute with violent, decisive purpose every single down, knowing the success of the scheme rests on their shoulders.
This brings us to a deeply fascinating psychological choice for the coaching staff at the inside linebacker position. You already have Leo Chenal firmly locked in, but who do you pair with him? Do you go with the aging veteran, Frankie Louvu, a man who deeply knows the nuances of the game, but whose physical tools and reaction times may be slightly waning? Or do you inject the highly versatile, explosive youth of rookie Sonny Styles? Why might a coach actually prefer the rookie in this high-stakes scenario? Because youth brings a very specific kind of superpower, fearless amnesia. A young player simply hasn't accumulated the heavy psychological scars of 1,000 NFL failures. They don't remember the times they got burned. They play fast, they play completely without memory. And maintaining a fearless, unrelenting defensive tempo across the board might just require the dynamic, unthinking, pure confidence of a rookie like Styles flying to the football.
Moving to the secondary, we revisit a familiar name from earlier, Trey Amos. The very player Adam Peters signed at the buzzer is now returning to a massive, critical role on the defense after suffering a season-ending injury. We really cannot underestimate the profound psychological terror of trusting a body that has previously devastatingly betrayed you. Taking the field, planting your foot for that first violent hard cut, trusting the surgically repaired ligaments to hold your weight against the fastest athletes on earth, it requires an immense, almost superhuman level of mental fortitude. Playing cornerback is already an island of profound isolation. Playing it after a devastating injury is a battle fought entirely within the mind. And to properly protect cornerbacks like Amos, who are operating on that terrifying island, you absolutely need complete clarity behind them. You have Nick Cross playing a heavy, physical role down in the box. You have Will Harris tasked with roaming the deep open field on the back end. These are clearly defined, rigid structural roles. And this isn't an accident of scheme, it's by design. When a player knows exactly, without a shadow of a doubt, what his specific boundaries are, it drastically reduces overthinking. There is no gray area to get lost in. They don't ever have to guess what their partner is doing. And when you successfully erase the guess from the equation, you allow players like Cross and Harris to play with pure, unhesitating, terrifying confidence.
Section 2. The ultimate pressure point, special teams.
All of these masterful front office maneuvers, the painstakingly built offensive continuity, the aggressive, calculated defensive scheme, every single bit of it can be completely undone in a single, agonizing, heartbreaking moment. Read this quote with me. The Commanders have had struggles in this area for years now. I want you to really let the heavy weight of that historical anxiety sink into your bones. The wide left missed field goals. The entire season's playoff hopes shattered by a sudden gust of wind, by a microscopic miscalculation of a holder, by a fraction of a single inch on the laces of the football. When an NFL game comes down to a single deciding kick as the clock bleeds to zero, the entire stadium collectively holds its breath. The silence is absolutely deafening. In that specific moment, the kicker is entirely, terrifyingly alone with his own mind.
This deeply isolated reality brings us to the final, ultimate psychological test of this roster. The Commanders have veteran kicker Jake Moody, a guy who managed to find some much-needed stability late last season. But the front office didn't just comfortably hand him the job. Instead, they brought in Drew Stevens from Iowa as fierce incoming competition. Make no mistake, this is highly intentional friction. Bringing in a young, hungry leg to compete with the established veteran Moody is the ultimate psychological stress test of the team's newly engineered mental resilience. It begs the question, will Moody crack and crumble under the intense pressure of the younger man breathing down his neck, or will that immense pressure forge his mind into a diamond of absolute, unwavering execution?
So, after peeling back all these layers, the absolute crucial point we must take away from analyzing this Washington Commanders roster is this incredibly simple yet brutal truth. Fear hesitates, confidence executes. It permeates every level of the organization, from the general manager anxiously pacing the floorboards of his office in July trying to get a contract signed, to the rookie receiver desperately fighting to shed a bust label, to the cornerback praying his repaired knee holds up on a deep route, to the lone kicker staring down the narrow goalposts as time agonizingly expires. Championships at the highest level of professional sports are won in the complex, fragile labyrinth of the human mind, long before they are ever won on the turf.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this final, profound thought to ponder. As fans and analysts, we obsess over 40-yard dash times. We spend hours analyzing bench press reps, vertical leaps, and wingspans. But looking at all of this, we really must ask ourselves, is the human mind actually the most fragile position on the gridiron? Those unseen mental battles, the quiet internal desperation to just not be the one who drops the game-winning ball, who misses the critical assignment, who hesitates for a fraction of a second when it matters most. That tension, that is the true beating essence of the sport. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. If this deep dive changed how you see the game of football, please make sure to subscribe to the channel NFL Nexus. Go ahead and like this explainer and comment down below on what you thought about this psychological breakdown of the roster. And if you truly want to master the unseen elements of the sport and help us keep making content like this, please support the channel by becoming a channel member. We would love to have you. Until next time, keep watching the smallest details and always keep studying the mind.